everyone. Welcome to today's edition of the Gamut Network. Honestly, I was debating, do I need to do like a double session with our guest today because she has so much to talk about, but we're going to try to fit it all in one session. But I think you're going to be beyond floored by her story, her personality, her beauty, her everything. Her name is Annemarie, but she gave me the gift of being able to call her Annie, and I think it really suits her. So, Annie, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hi. I am so excited because not only is this a really good way to teach people about limb difference and other medical issues that come with limb difference, but it also gives me a way to just kind of get everything out.
Love it.
Almost like for the first time. People ask me on the street, it's like the first time every time. And it's an amazing thing to be able to tell your story. You feel almost vindicated. And
I agree. And it's definitely cathartic. It has helped me as well. So without further ado, let's hear about your story, your journey from the beginning.
okay, I am a twin. Me and my twin sister are fraternal. I'm 5'9" and she's 5'4". She's like we're like the sun and the moon basically. When we were kids, we would butt heads like you wouldn't believe. She'd want to piggyback, and was not having it. She had ADHD, and I had so many surgeries. I had a rare condition, and I really let's just say my sister and I get along better now. But we were premature, so even though she was perfectly healthy, I had a disease which still has no name.
Oh, I
Um,
was going to ask, what's the name?
Technical name is lymphangioma hemangioma, cystic hygroma lymphangioma hemangioma, with a chronic pain and chronic what is it lymphedema in the left arm.
Wow.
So I've had over 16 major operations to remove these masses because, as you know, hemangiomas and lymphangiomas and things like that, they are tumors. So because these tumors I had masses all over my chest, my around my heart and lung, completely afflicting my left arm all the way down to the digits. I'll show you. I wear compression sleeve, but it does very little. It helps a little, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Conceals it too, which with the sun it can burn very easy. So in any case, yeah, I had a lot of complications. My birth parents, they abandoned me and my twin sister when we were babies, and we were 10 months old. A cop found us. My biological aunt, whom I've never met, called it in, and the cops came right away. We were by ourselves, hidden under a laundry basket of clothes. We were 10 months old, and my sister's whole hand was no bigger than a grown man's thumb. My mother ran off, and they found her until 2 years later when she had my little sister. But by then, we already had been adopted by two teachers, and a very large family. And let me say, my family is large, getting bigger, nieces and nephews. But yeah, so with my little sister being adopted by the same family, my twin sister and I, that made 10 children. 10
Wow.
in one house. My parents had no idea what they were doing as far as my disability goes. I mean, there's less than 200 people in the world that have this. So my parents they were learning as they were going. Like most parents would say, I learn as I go.
That's what
Um,
I say often, as there's certainly no rule book on being a parent, and there's definitely no rule book on being a parent of a child with a disability. I have a question, Annie. Did your parents know when they adopted you that you had a disability?
they absolutely knew. They knew that I
Okay.
had to. They had worked with me in foster care. They did foster care for the first year or two, and then I was adopted. They knew I had a disability. You can see it. It's big. It's large. My arm is just completely consumed, and but they wanted us. They really did. They took a chance. They took us. And then when my little sister was born and they caught my mother, they're like, we want her too. We want them all together.
Mm.
And unfortunately, my medical was so rare and so very expensive that the state was giving my parents difficulty about the way I was being taken care of.
Mm.
And there was no reason for it except that a social worker had said is declared after so many hospital stays. I was about 12, maybe I was 11 and a half, and they just said, they put me in a private foster home to get some medical treatment in Sacramento, which was not very uncommon. When I had long bouts of treatments, I would stay with people they would transport me back and forth. It was a team effort,
Mm-hmm.
Well, any case, I came back to my parents after a long treatment that failed. Unfortunately, it was experimental. I was very sick. And the next thing you know, I was schlepped off into a foster home. And
By yourself, just you, not your siblings, not your twin, nobody.
nobody, just
So
me.
how does one first of all, physically, you have a disability. So I'm sure you were in some pain, and it sounds like you had so many surgeries, but even mentally, how do you survive something like that? I need to get into that.
Honestly, I shut down completely. I've always been a talkative, happy going, singing in the hallways, giggling, happy. And when that happened to me and nobody gave me any reason why, I just kind of knew, like, it's me, it's my health, it's got to be me. And I almost became neurotic about it's my fault.
Mm, I
So
would imagine.
I knew they loved me, I knew they wanted me, but I thought it's my fault. And you know, maybe all the kids were right that picked on me. Maybe maybe all the people that said that I would barely have a chance. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. You know, and I really became very mentally ill. I was traumatized, absolutely, and through many temporary foster homes, they move you around a lot. I ended up in a group home, which I liked better because I was so used to having so many kids and so many
Mhm.
people. And I had other siblings with disabilities, and these kids had disabilities, and I felt normal for a little
Mhm.
while, because I had people to talk to.
Of
I
course,
was
you had people that understood what
also being
you were
understood
going through.
there. And then, unfortunately, I started having numbness, and it turned out I had a very large mass on my spine, and it was in between. It was growing around it, and I went paralyzed within a couple months. Hemiparalysis from the chest down. I didn't know what was going on. I just kind of went with it, but I ended up in the hospital through an emergency room. They thought I had meningitis. Didn't have it. Uh, the one thing they didn't look at was, oh, maybe it's related to the arm.
Hmm.
Because I had masses around my heart and lung when I was a baby, and I still have some around my back. They did some scans, and they're like, we need to remove this now. By the time they removed it, my spine collapsed and I was paralyzed from the chest down, and I learned how to walk all over again. And I tell you what, there's nothing more embarrassing than I spent my 13th birthday in the hospital, 14th birthday in the hospital, excuse me. And there's nothing more embarrassing than a 14-year-old in a diaper.
Mm.
I'm like, I don't want to wear this. They're like, you have to wear it. I said, no, I'm not wearing it. And I'm not wearing those shoes for embraces either. I thought it was so uncool.
Of
I
course.
really
I do want to just interject there for a second because I want the audience to really take this in. So, not only did you have challenges with your health, you were removed from your family that you loved, your biological siblings, as well as your adopted siblings. And now your health is failing. You become paralyzed, and here you are, 14 years old. And this is the piece that I really want people to understand. You were still a 14-year-old girl that did care about wearing a diaper because it's embarrassing, or wearing shoes that weren't cool, as you said. And that's such a critical piece of what we're trying to kind of have the world understand. That people with disabilities are people first. You were a 14-year-old girl first and foremost. And even though you had so much on your plate, I would venture to say the embarrassment of the diaper and or what shoes you were wearing probably were top on your list of things that you were upset about.
Oh
That's
yeah, because
a fair statement.
the medical thing, it was kind of already like I get the medical stuff. You know what I'm saying? I was so used to dealing with medical traumas and all these things that I'm like, that wasn't on my mind. What was on my mind was this is ridiculous. I'm not wearing that diaper. I'm sorry. It's gross. And I'm just going to like fall to the bathroom. I thought it was stupid that I had to wear my braces that were all the way up to my thighs. Uh, and the sneakers they gave me, my grandma wore those.
Right.
Taupe or khaki.
Powerful. It's critical, it's powerful, and it goes exactly to what we talk about often, that clothing is just a direct correlation to how you feel about yourself and how you are viewed by our world. You didn't want to be wearing your grandmother's orthotic sneakers or whatever they were. And that is so powerfully important. So now here you are, 14. This is all happening. What happens next?
Uh, you know, I had a very good social worker, and she turned around and she got me Fila sneakers that were right out of the mall.
Love.
Bless her heart, because when I went back to school and I had my braces on and I had my walker and I was still learning how to walk, I still had really cool sneakers.
Yes.
She went out and she got them for me, and the kids, I don't know, obviously they noticed I was different than the year before. In the year before I ran the mile in 8 minutes. Now I'm in now I'm reduced to a walker, but the kids still liked me. And obviously it wasn't because of my shoes. It was because I had the confidence to walk back into school, even
Absolutely.
with a walker. And I was comfortable and stylish. That was important to me as a 14.
Very.
Very
Isn't
important.
it amazing how those sneakers, that care work, that social worker that got you, that was a pivotal, important moment in your life that probably, yes, it is who you are. I think we can all tell that the guts, the grit, the ability to pick yourself back up, but picking yourself back up with those Fila shoes on certainly helped. And that's really, I'm so happy that you brought that piece of the story out. So then take us through a little bit to closer to where you are now.
Okay, so teenage years kind of pass by and we get closer to about 18, and 18 means that you are no longer going to be a ward of the court. And it's a very big deal for kids in foster care. It's humongous. And me being disabled, it's even more stressful because it's like I can't work right out of high school.
Mm.
Went to college right out of high school to the junior college, and I was given services, and I just kind of went along with whatever the caseworkers, whatever they said, so I can learn as I go. But there was no one who was like me. And I've only met one other person with the same disorder on their foot, and she was 6. So, but there was no one like me around the same age that could relate with me at 18 years old, leaving foster care, taking full units in college, and obviously I can barely drive because I stink at driving, and I have a hard time just because of my disability itself. So I'm like, I'm really roughing it, and on top of it, I'm from Stockton, Lodi area in California, Northern California. Stockton is a very dangerous city.
Mm.
So you and a young woman by herself in a dangerous city, learning the system as she goes, that's another stressor. You know, I became tough, but I was kind yet firm. I
Mm.
think it was just tough. But as 18, I really had to figure things out, and I wish I would have had this liaison. I wish I would have had somebody like me when I was that age to say, okay, you know what, you're on the right track, or you're not on the right track, or instead of just throwing a pamphlet of services at me with
Mm.
numbers on them all over the county And that's basically what they did. And I just hunt and pecked every single thing that might have worked for me. And even then, there's a wait list, you know? So, you know, I did. I took advantage of the housing that they had here. By the time I was in my early 20s, I was unofficially engaged. And I loved him very much, very, very much. At about 24, we moved in together. And he was not exactly pushing marriage, but we were just taking it easy. Only 6 months into me living there, I wanted to move out desperately. He was not the person for me. He was very inconsiderate about my disability. He had a disability himself, cleft lip and cleft palate, but the way he responded to the things that I was going through were just made it much worse. And I really rejected that feeling. And then later on, it turned out that he was also with somebody else. So me leaving was a good thing,
And also acknowledging what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But again, I got to pause and just underline the notion of people with disabilities are people. You had a relationship, you broke up with that relationship, you knew what you wanted, what you didn't want. That's a typical 20-something-year-old woman. So again, another kind of nod to this is life. This is real life that you're living through. So now fast forward us to how you got back to your family.
So I had a couple apartments after him, but not long after I left him, I had this apartment downtown. I loved it, but I ended up having to have another surgery on my spine. I went paralyzed again. And this time, being older and dealing with it 10 years later, I'm like, I know how to handle this. My heart knows how to handle this. I know how to handle it. And I felt when I walked again, I felt empowered. There was an obvious feeling of confidence. I'm on my own two legs again. I may be a little wobbly, but I don't need my walker. I don't need these braces. I've done this before. I got this. I don't have my ex anymore. I got my own place. And the feeling of independence was amazing. It was amazing. And I felt great. But I stayed there downtown for years. I worked at a used bookstore for about 6 years. And then when they started renovating most of the downtown area, I just kind of got squeezed out of that bubble. It was like one bad landlord after another, not fixing things. And finally, just the last straw, when I found another apartment and the ceiling broke and all this water came out, I was like, I'm done. I am just so done. And so finally, I ended up actually in a domestic violence relationship during that same time frame. And it was really scary because I had to be like my own everything, my own advocate, pep talker, my own mom, my own, and even though I was talking to my parents that live in another state, I started connecting with my parents after 18. So after 18, they had been there throughout all of this, the paralyzation things. But by the time I decided that I was done living on my own, I took one more job in Southern California. I did really good, but when I came back, my health just pooped out on me. It just, I couldn't take any more of doing it anymore. And it seemed like I was constantly advocating so hard and working so hard that I wasn't giving anything to myself. I wasn't learning anything new. I was just every single day, like clockwork. I was always worried about something, and it wasn't like a little something. It was always like, is the ceiling going to be repaired? Is the water going to be fixed? Is the landlord going to yell at me? Is my boyfriend going to do something really crazy and stupid? Like, it wasn't worth all of the stress because I didn't realize, I forgot that I am still a disabled person. I have severe needs to take care of. And if they're not going to help me, then they shouldn't hurt me. And if they are hurting me, then to leave, get yourself out of the situation as quick as you can.
And that's whether you have a disability or not. I mean, that just goes across the board. So is that when you reconnected with your family?
That's when I came back from Southern California, and I decided I'm going to do my best. I'm going to work with the system, with the services that are given to me. I found work, and I had to go through a loop de loop because I don't have very many family members left in this area. But my godparents were very generous, and they brought me back into their lives. And um, it was really surreal because I had been used to living on my own and
Of
being
course.
a woman and taking care of everybody else's needs. And then finally, I had these people that taking care of me, and they love me. And I hadn't been lived with my family in, well, years, or even in a family setting.
Mm,
I haven't lived with anybody for years. I was so absorbed into, honestly, I don't know what it was, but it was a different life. So here comes the new life. Here comes the new life, the better life, the reinvented Annie. And I decided, you know what? Everything's okay. Everything's so great that I'm going to pass on that greatness and this goodness and this really great feeling, and I'm going to pass it on. And that's when I found Gamut. That's when I started looking outside of my situation, my issues, or what people want to call issues or problems. They're not problems to me, they're gifts. These are gifts. And I'm ready to take my blessings and show the world and say, hey, look, not only can you do this, but you are doing it.
absolutely.
You
And
don't
you
have
are an
it's not
absolute role model of that. And really everything that I had hoped to build Gamut on is giving a voice to those that always had it, just needed a platform to be able to shout it, to share it, to have a sense of, really having our mainstream world understand your world and what you have gone through. So we are equally as lucky to have you. But before we run out of time, I want to, because this is so important, I think, to your story and your journey. Before we started recording, I first said to you, your story is so full and rich and deep and so much we can learn from it that you should be writing a book. And your response to me was,
I am writing a book. Everyone says it. Everyone says it. And I'm ready. I'm so ready to get it out there, and especially teach the population that is grossly underserved in this area. Grossly underserved. A lot of disabled people, a lot of disabled people, they want to be so independent, but if you're not disabled enough, I hate it when they say that, but if you're not exactly disabled on one spectrum, to the point where the system thinks they want to intervene or you need help, you kind of just fall through the cracks in a mean way. And it's not for the people that there are people that have addiction issues, and a lot of people that have children that need the assistance, that get the assistance before somebody who is wanting to live very independent, who can live independent, but they just need the services to start off with, because they're disabled people are exactly the same as everybody else, but we do have needs, so we need to adapt so we can achieve. And I want to be able to have a platform so I can help a lot of kids, especially kids coming out of foster care and young adults, saying not only can you do this, but you are doing it. You just don't know that you're doing it. So there are people out there that are gonna say, yeah, you are doing it, but you'll know when you get there.
agreed.
When you get there, you'll know.
Absolutely. And that really does go into how I like to leave every interview, and that's about the power of manifestation and really putting your hopes and dreams and wishes out there, whether it's a vision board or it's in your heart or your head. If we got to peek onto Annie's vision board about your future, What would we see?
You know what? Speaking about vision board, I had a beautiful vision board made that I made. Can I show you?
Please, yes.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, I'm gonna move this a little bit. Can you see it?
Oh yes, I love it.
I made this with, here, another view. I made this with Miss Lolo Spencer, fabulous Lolo Spencer. She's also from Stockton, and she is the one person that I could say definitely inspired me to take Gamut not just seriously, but just take it in stride. I don't care how long it takes, I'm getting there.
Love her.
And she kind of basically set that. Yeah, I love her so much. And she had us make these in a group together. And that was my first start at really getting my platform started. But my vision board is so bright, so colorful, so sparkly. I think the best place for me to go with the next step would be showing my mom this interview. Because I always want my mom to be proud of me, but I think
she's going to be very, very proud of you.
Broader spectrum, I want to take my acting very seriously. I'm in college for it as well. I went back to college.
Great.
And I'm going to work on my craft, because one day I want to be able to look at those kids, even my kids, and say, you know what? I love you. I love you so much, because I know that you are an amazing person. Just any child in a wheelchair, any child hugging their arm, any child, I'm looking at them and I look at them with love, because I see the future of, they're going to be a part of Gamut. They're going to be a part of this too. And I gotta give my appreciation. So when I write my children's book, when I get there in my acting, even if it's just modeling, you know, because maybe my acting's not so good. I don't know, but whatever I'm doing it.
Absolutely. And you are, we all feel very fortunate and lucky to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to watch you. I'll be on the sidelines cheering you on. You are amazing. Annie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Bye, Mindy.
If you would like to be on the Gamut Network, please email us at talent@gamutmanagement.com to tell us why you'd be a great guest. Please also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Gamut Network, as well as follow us on Gamut Management on social media. Thanks again. Bye.